know, I like to read a lot. I listen to books on Audible, I have some books here, I have several other bookshelves throughout my house, and I make reading a daily part of my life. And a few months ago, I made a video about some books that had changed my life, and I asked subscribers to comment and to tell me about books that had changed their lives, because I'm always looking for amazing new books to read. And before we even get into this, I just want to ask that again. If you guys know any books that especially are in the personal development realm or the business strategy realm or anything like that, that have had a big impact on your life, then I would love to hear those recommendations, so please do comment below and tell me all about them. But anyway, in that video I made a few months ago, someone had commented and shared this book called One Small Step Can Change Your Life by Dr. Robert Maurer. And I ended up reading that book and I really enjoyed it. And the message was so profound that I really wanted to share that with you, and that's what I'm going to do in today's video. So the basic premise of One Small Step Can Change Your Life is exactly what the title is, right? That you can take very small steps that can have a big impact on your life. And it's all based on the Japanese concept of kaizen. Now, kaizen is one of many words that we don't really have a perfect equivalent in the English language, and it means that you're taking small actions or making small changes that eventually mount up to be a big result. Now, in the Western world, we tend to be very taken with the idea of innovation and the ideas of making big changes to create big results. But in some other cultures, that isn't what they put the emphasis on. In fact, many cultures put the emphasis on those small habits that over time result in a big change. Now, you might think, well, this is obvious. Of course, we need to take small steps in order to reach any big goal. But let me give you an example that I think will bring home the difference between these two different ideas. Imagine if you felt like you weren't leading a very healthy lifestyle, and so you wanted to become a healthier person. So you have two different options of how you can approach that. You can either go on a crazy crash diet, maybe not necessarily cutting your calories extremely, but saying, I will absolutely only eat fresh vegetables. And that's the only thing I will eat because that is the healthiest thing to eat, and you're going to radically change your life. On the other hand, you could start by just making one small change. So maybe right now you're drinking a lot of soda, and so you say, okay, I'm going to cut back. I'm going to cut my soda intake in half. And then from there, okay, now I'm going to cut down to just one soda a day. Now I'm going to cut it out of my life. And then one by one, you're cutting those bad foods out of your life and you're adding new good foods into your life. Now at first, if you only look at that one small step that you took, going from 4 sodas a day down to 2 sodas a day, you might think, well, that's not going to create the result that you're looking for because, you're still drinking 2 sodas a day. You're still wrecking your health. You're never going to become healthy if all you do is cut 2 sodas out of your life. But when you look at the bigger picture and you look at where that can eventually lead you, by taking that small step, you can then be inspired to take another small step and another one and another one. You can ease into a much healthier lifestyle. On the other hand, if you try to take the much more drastic option and you try to make a massive change, there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and most of them are all up in your head. And those mindset problems could really hold you back from creating any sort of sustainable change, and you might even end off worse than how you started. Now, of course, that's not to say that that option couldn't work and that that option is never the right option. But it's just important to consider both of these options. You both have the Kaizen model of taking the small steps and also the innovation model where you're making a big radical change, because sometimes one of them is a better option than the other. So let me give you just a few more examples of some small steps that you could take that could lead you to a big goal, even though it might not be obvious at first. Let's say you wanted to write a book. Now, the first step to write a book might be to write the first chapter, but it might actually be way smaller than that. Maybe you need to start by just outlining the chapters of your book, or just buying a new notebook that you're going to start writing your manuscript in. There's lots of tiny little steps that you can take to ease into the process if writing the book would be completely overwhelming if your first task was to write the whole first chapter, or even write the first page. Another obvious example is if you wanted to run a marathon or run a 5K, and right now you're not a runner at all, well, that first tiny little step, it could be to run around the block, but it could be way smaller than that. It could be to walk around the block, or it could even be just to buy a new pair of running shoes. And then finally, if you wanted to spend more time with your children and do more meaningful activities with them or build a relationship with them, you could take the route of setting aside half a day every single week to spend time with them. But you could start a lot smaller than that. You could start with just 5 or 10 minutes every day after dinner. Of course, that wouldn't be enough time to spend with your kids, and it might feel like it would never be enough time or never end up being enough time. But if you start by just taking that small little step, then you can grow from there. You can extend that amount of time. You could add on some more time in a different part of the day. And later on, you could end up doing all sorts of cool things together, and even taking that first tiny little step will be the first stepping stone in the process of building that relationship with your child. Now, one of the reasons that Kaizen is such a powerful principle is because often what gets in the way of us making big changes or achieving big things isn't actually obstacles that are in our way, but obstacles that are in our mind. For one reason or another, we're scared of making the big change that we need to make in order to get the result. Now, this big change might be cutting something out of our diet, but it also might just be something about changing our daily routine that seems overwhelming. Of course, this can be obvious when you're thinking in terms of a big project, but even if you're just trying to make a lifestyle change, you still might be facing a bit of overwhelm. And if you try to make that big change all at once, then you're going to provoke your body's natural fight or flight response, and you'll either end up resisting it really hard and even sabotaging your success, or simply running the other way and subconsciously forgetting all about that change that you were trying to make. Taking the Kaizen approach can allow you to disarm your mind's fight or flight response and just gradually ease into something in a way that's completely not overwhelming and not scary. If you want to radically transform your health and get in the best shape of your life, that can seem really big and overwhelming and scary. You might feel like it's going to be really uncomfortable and you're going to have to make giant changes. You're going to have to completely overhaul your diet and you're going to work out, which will hurt a lot, especially if you're out of shape right now. But instead, if you start with that first tiny little step, like let's just do 3 squats, or let's just walk around the block, or let's even just put on our shoes. That tiny little step, it won't be painful, it won't be scary, and it won't be overwhelming. So you'll be able to get past your body's fight or flight response and actually ease into that change that you want to create. The final thing that I want to share with you is 3 little things that you can do, and they're literally little, in order to create some big changes in your life. The first one is to ask small questions. Now, this is one of the things that I've been implementing in my life that I have found so profound over the past few months here. Here's how it works. Whenever you have something that you want to do, or some problem that you're facing, or some goal that you want to reach, instead of overwhelming yourself with the big problem or big goal, instead we just want to ask small questions about how we could get a little bit closer. So here are a few examples. So in the example I gave earlier about wanting to become healthier, you could ask yourself just, what is one small thing I can do right now to make a healthier choice? Or if you wanted to improve your relationship with your husband, you could ask, what is one small thing I can do right now to show my husband love? Oftentimes we have a lot of negative self-talk. And I know that different people have different amounts of this negative self-talk, and it can be more extreme or less extreme, but it might be as simple as asking ourselves the wrong questions. Like, why do I always mess up like that? Or why do I always make bad decisions? Or why do I always choose to eat something unhealthy? Or why do I always yell at my husband like that? And those are all the wrong questions, because when you ask yourself those questions, what's going to happen is you're going to start automatically looking for the answers to those questions, and it will kind of be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, for example, if you were asking yourself, why do I always mess up like this? Then your mind is going to start coming up with reasons why you always mess up with this. Reasons like you're not smart enough, or you don't have good judgment, or you were not raised very well, or you just have so many things against you. And those aren't the things that you want to be telling yourself. So instead, you need to start asking yourself small positive questions. Questions like, what is one thing that is great about today? Or what is one small thing that I can do to increase my income? Or what is one small thing that I can do to show kindness to my children or build a relationship with my children? By asking yourself these positive questions, you'll start finding the positive answers that you need in order to begin creating the positive changes that you want to see. And by making these questions very small and just asking yourself, what is one small thing, you won't end up feeling overwhelmed by the enormous task at hand. Okay, so we've covered asking small questions. Now there's two more parts to this. The second part is taking small actions, and that's the part that I've been talking about this entire video, just making small little changes in your life, in your work, that will lead you towards that bigger goal. So first we have asking small questions, and that's gonna help you figure out what those small actions can be. Then you actually take the small actions. And in order to get the best results with those small actions, it will be best if you create a habit around them. So what is one small thing you can do every day to lead you to a healthier lifestyle, or to increase your income, or to build a relationship with your husband? And then after you figure out what one tiny little thing is, then you can think, when is the easiest time of day for me to do that? Is it first thing in the morning? Is it after lunch? Pick a trigger, an activity that when you do it, it will then prompt you to do the other activity, the small little action that you want to take in order to create that eventual change. All right, and then finally, beyond asking small questions and taking small actions, the third and final component might sound a little strange, but it's to give yourself small rewards. So here's a little example of that. You might tell yourself, if I do my small change today, if I walk around the block today, then this evening I'll allow myself to watch my favorite television show. Or it might be way smaller than that. You might just say, I'll allow myself to write in my journal for 5 minutes. Now, the way most of us are wired to think, we'd probably assume that the bigger reward we can give ourselves for doing the right thing, the better. That will really reinforce the behavior and really motivate ourselves to do that. But in fact, a lot of studies have found that the opposite is true. When you give yourself a really big reward, or you promise yourself a really big reward, often that makes the action seem more overwhelming because you're putting such big stakes on you doing that action. Even if the action is just walking around the block or eating a single vegetable or telling your husband, I love you, if you say, okay, if I do that, then I get to go to the movies tonight, or I get to eat a piece of chocolate cake, or I get to splurge and buy myself that dress I really wanted. When you make the prize so big, then it just makes the action seem like there's so much weight resting on you doing that. And then there's two other problems that can come up if you promise yourself a really big reward. One of them is that you might doubt that you're actually going to follow through and give yourself that reward. Because, let's say that you said, okay, if I eat a vegetable today, which I don't want to do, then I get to go to the movies tonight. Well, you might eat the vegetable and then you might say to yourself, that wasn't that bad. I don't have to go to the movies. I'll be fine. And you might know that you're going to tell yourself that and then not actually give yourself the reward. So we want to make sure that it's a small enough reward that you're definitely going to follow through, not feel bad at all about giving yourself the reward. And then the final problem with giving yourself big rewards is that it can make doing the action much more about the reward than it is about doing and enjoying and practicing that action. So if you were trying to create a healthier lifestyle for yourself, and so you say, okay, I need to walk around the block today, and then I get to go to the movies, you might just be so focused on the fact that you get to go to the movies and see this movie that you really wanted to see, that you don't even think about the fact that you're walking around the block and actually take the time to enjoy it and to savor it for what it is. And instead, you're just completely focused on that other thing. And then you won't really be building the habit and actually creating the healthy lifestyle that you want to. So it won't have that same snowball effect. It won't lead into more healthy decisions in the future. So the three components are to ask yourself small questions, take small actions, and give yourself small rewards. All right, well, this has been kind of a short summary of the book, One Small Step Can Change Your Life. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you'll take this principle and really use it in your life. It's such an easy principle to start using because all you have to do is tiny, tiny little things. Just start asking yourself those small positive questions. And then when you get those answers to those questions, what is one small thing I can do to increase my income, then start acting on the answers to those in the smallest way that you possibly can. And by doing those things, you will lead yourself to bigger changes in the future. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like it in the future, make sure you hit that thumbs up button to let me know. And also comment down below. Tell me if this is something you enjoy. Tell me if you want to see me share more books with you in the future, or if you'd rather just read the book yourself, and that's fine too. And also, I've never asked you to do this before, but if you know anyone who could benefit from this video, if you would share it with them, I would really appreciate that, because I think this is such a profound concept and it's really been having a big impact in my life, and I believe it can have a big impact in your life too. And I'm sure that you know other people who it could help as well, but I am sure that you know a lot of people who I don't know and who don't know me. So if you'd be willing to spread the word by sharing this video with them, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, well, that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you are having a fantastic week. I hope that it's being productive and that you're really enjoying it. Thanks so much for spending your time here with me today, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.